What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and because you guys are amazing as you are, you smashed that like button way over 50 on the budget build for the Ice Barrier structure deck. So, well, of course, that means that you unlocked a very good test hand combo learning to play Ice Barrier video. With that out of the way, again, with this video, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Again, if you get this to above 50 likes, I will bring you duels using this deck at locals. With all of that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into test hands for Ice Barriers. Now, the way we're going to do this is the standard 2 going first, 2 going second. I'm going to do exactly what I did with the Ice Barrier, with the Charmer deck, and I'm pretty much going to go through each card as they are. So Speaker for the Ice Barrier is a nice level 4 free extender that you can get just by controlling an Ice Barrier. If it is in the graveyard and you still control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish it from the graveyard and it gives you a token. So what it allows you to do is it instigates XYZ plays, but then it can also instigate giving you an additional token for your synchro plays. Prior is of course a free summon that is an Aqua, so it helps you with your Toad plays. Your Chiromancer is a level 2 tuner Aqua again, so it helps you with your Toad plays, but it also helps you with Halley Firebrax plays and Synchro plays. And then you've got Revealer, who is of course your main starter for Ice Barriers themselves. Normal summon Revealer, discard any card at all, and she will special summon an Ice Barrier tuner from the deck, so that gives you instant access to, of course, a Halley Firebrax. But on top of that, you can also bring out the new card as well in Hexa. And Hexa can then abuse its level or adapt its level depending on what it sends. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you saw my combos, Hexa is going to send the Zuijin, because then Zuijin gives you follow-up plays for the next turn. The last of the main Ice Barrier cards in the deck is, of course, your General Wayne. Now, this is mainly for going second, because you need to control an Ice Barrier monster and your opponent needs to control one as well. But he searches you out all of your Ice Barrier spells and traps, and pretty much is a nice 2100 beater. And on top of that, any spell and trap from the field to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. Then, of course, if you saw the profile, which I hope you did, we do run the Toad engine in this deck just because it's too good, it's too consistent, and it gives you a lot to go for. So, with all of that out of the way, after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, we will do test hands, 2 going first, 2 going second, and show you exactly how this deck can operate. So, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, going first, General Wayne is going second, General Wayne is a great card to have in your hand. The one issue with this hand is that we haven't really got any further extenders. So what I mean by that is you probably normal summon your Chiromancer and special summon your Silent Angler. But what we're going to do with this is we are going to activate Moray of Greed, and the cards that Moray is going to spin back is going to be the General, because he's of no use to us right now, and Dupe Frog, because again, less relevance to us. At least with the Chiromancer, we do have a tuner, so it does instigate Halley Firebrax plays should it all go awry. So I'm going to shuffle this up, and then Moray of Greed is going to hopefully fix it and give us 1, 2, and 3. It's actually fixed it really nicely. So the one thing you got to keep in mind as well is the second you use Silent Angler, you can't special summon monsters for the hand for the rest of the turn. So you ideally need to be able to special summon all these cards first before you even go anywhere near the Silent Angler. Now, the only card out of all of these that doesn't already special summon itself is, of course, going to be the Chiromancer. So you're going to normal summon this card straight away. Then from this point on, what you can do is you can special summon down the Ice Barrier, because the Ice Barrier is then going to pretty much be a free summon, and when it goes to the graveyard, will produce a token for you. Now, you can ideally sync these two together and go into Halley Firebrax, but then you've got Shark and a Toad play here as well. So what I would actually advise is I'd probably advise special summon down your Prio, and then we can actually use the Prio play that we did yesterday in the combo. So use Pyro and Chiromancer, and you go into your Crystron Halley Firebrax. Now, obviously you're going to be in Nibiru territory, but your Halley Firebrax's effect is going to go off, and what you want to do on this one is, again, you can bring out a level 2 or you can bring out the Fishborg. It depends on which route you want to go from this point, whether you want to go for a Synchro climb or whether you want to go for a Toad play. So what we're going to do here is you're going to special summon down the Fishborg launcher. If you did bring out a level 2, then it means your graveyard is, you're going more for the Toad play. But what we're going to do here is we're going to banish the Chiromancer, because you want the Prior in hand, because you can get to add that back to the hand. It is not a hard once per turn. And you're going to special summon down your Spirit. Now, what you're going to be able to do with your Spirit is you're going to be able to overlay these two here, and you're going to be able to go into a Shark and a Toad. specifically detaching the speaker in order to instigate a Totally Awesome. Again, make sure Totally Awesome pretty much goes under the Hadi Firebrax, because you're going to want to leave this space free for ideally your coral enemy. Now, the one issue we have got at this moment in time, because of the Fishborg launcher, in a sense, if it was a level 2, if it was the other Chiromancer, for example, then you could trigger off the effect of speaker right now without issue. But because we went with the Fishborg launcher, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use Fishborg launcher plus your Totally Awesome, and you're going to go into your coral enemy. That will then trigger Totally Awesome's effect to add back an aqua, so you're going to want to add back your prior to the hand. You can then trigger Coral Enemy's effect, and that will let you special summon back your Speaker of the Ice Barrier, as it is, of course, less than 1500 attack. You now have the ability to special summon down your prior, and you also have the ability to bring back the Fishborg. Now, by bringing back the Fishborg, you do have a tuner on board, and again, you have the ability right here, is you've got the ability to make a 7, but if you were to get rid of Shark as well, you do have the ability to drop Angler, and you've got a Trish play just in these 3 right here. So it's entirely up to you on the route you want to go. Like I said, if the Fishborg was a level 2, that is where you can hard cast a Toad. Because it is not, then what you're going to have to do is you can go for a Synchro route, or you can go for something a little bit different. It is entirely up to you. Fishborg is going to be the only tuner you have until you use Hadi Firebrax during your opponent's turn. So it's now up to you on the route you want to go. What you can do is you can use your Speaker plus your Launcher plus the Shark if you want to. Or you can leave the Shark on the board. It depends if you want the levels on the board or not. And use your Coral. The Coral will then be able to go into your Bubble Reef. And now, of course, at any point, because you've already specialed everything from the hand, you can special summon down Angler. Now, by special summoning down Angler, you can also banish the Speaker from the graveyard because you control an Ice Barrier, and that will give you a token. Now, from this point on, there's not really a lot you're going to be doing during your turn. Everything now passes over to your opponent. Now, one thing you could change, depending on if you wanted to do it, is you could keep the Speaker, and you could let the Prior go to the graveyard as the ability to make Coral Reef, and then you can overlay into a Abyss Dweller if you decided to play it. Or you can obviously go into any other water rank 4. But what that will do is that means you won't have a token to use or a monster to use to sync with during your opponent's turn. So if we leave it like this for now, we've actually got quite a nice adaptive route of what we want to sync in during our opponent's turn. So pass to our opponent, standby phase, effect of Bubble Reef to banish and draw us a random card. So whatever that is, that's great. It's great recursion for next turn. Speaker is banished. You're then going to use your Hadi Firebrax, and that can bring you out any cards you want. So, like I said previously, as they are tuners, you have the ability to pretty much abuse the field. So, if you want to, you can go into Formula Synchron, and then use Formula Synchron plus the Prior, and you could have kept Angler in the hand for this route and draw an additional card, and then go into Herald. Or you can go into a Desert Locust, and then use Desert Locust plus the Prior to go into a Dragonite, and that gives you another negate, well, a single negate. Or what you can do is you can go into Riser. Riser can adapt its level, and if you play Crocosaur, Crocosaur can technically, if you wanted to, what we got, 5, so 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So you could abuse Riser by sending a level 4, make him a level 3 tuner, and then you go 3, 7, 8. Oh no, sorry, did it run? Send the Wayne to make him a level 2, and then you go 2, 4, 8, 9. So you make a Crocosaur, and then Crocosaur will let you draw 3 if you play Crocosaur again. So these are just examples. Or you also have the ability to go Riser, and then you can abuse your levels, and you can still end up going into a normal Trish, or you can go into the new Trish. Obviously, the new Trish is a little bit later game because you want to make sure they're setting cards and they're putting at least 3 cards on the board. But the normal Trish, as soon as they put a card in the graveyard they might rely on, or put a card on the field and a card in hand, you just go Trish, boom, 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 and get rid of all 3 of them. So that's just an example of like a couple of different routes you can take from this test stand. And the test stand wasn't, I mean, it wasn't broken, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't with all the normal starters that you would have wanted to ideally have in your hand. Like, of course, you would have wanted to have Swap Frog, or you want to have Revealer, but it kind of shows you what the deck can do without it, especially if you open up with just Speaker as well. Speaker's just good. As long as you've got Ice Barriers to go off of it, you're good to pretty much go. So now let's reset this, and we'll go into our test hand number 2. So we're going to shuffle this up again. And we'll show you again what this deck can do with the 5 cards. And then we'll go second and we'll show the aggression behind the cards as well. And going second is when you probably want to utilise your synchros more so than your toad plays. But the toads are obviously always going to be good because they do help with negation as well. So after a good old shuffle and another very good cut, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, a very, very interesting hand. Like, it's not the broken hand, but it's a very interesting hand as well because you've got resource management here with salvage. We've got kind of dead cards here, but we can actually discard them quite easily. And then we've got a free summon for Prior. The medallion is really important as well because medallion actually allows us to instigate getting into more monsters. So what we could do here is medallion is going to go for probably the best ice barrier right now, and that's going to be the revealer. You then go to normal summon your revealer and use her effect to discard. Now, you don't want to discard the Prior, you want that. So you're going to probably want to ditch either the Ronin or the Hexer. Either one of these are coming back to the hand anyway, but you're going to ditch one of these to special summon out a tuner from the deck. Now this is where you've got a couple of good options on this one, but you're probably going to end up going for Halley Firebrax plays just because it allows you to extend that little bit further by getting into Fishborg Launcher and then using Salvage to pretty much cover back what you need. So the only other difference as well is Hexer can send another Prior, and then you've got 2 Priors to play, but Hexer's in the hand because Hexer is annoying. So you're going to go with the Chiromancer. Then from this point on, what you can do is you can special summon down the Prior. Now the Prior has 2 ways of doing this. You can just overlay into Toad, and then pretty much leave it there, and then standby phase you do something. But you ideally want to be trying to make a synchro during your opponent's turn. So again, at the very least, you can leave Prior on the board, you can leave Revealer on the board. It's entirely up to you. Obviously, a Revealer is if you can get another level 4 to the board, great. If you can't, then what you want to do here is at the very least, this is how you want to play it. You can probably put the Prior in the graveyard, actually. You might get more resource out of that over hand advantage. But you'd go to Crystron Halley Firebrax. Use Crystron Halley Firebrax's effect. That will give you your Fishborg Launcher. And then what you kind of want to do here is you want to be able to loop your level 2s because you kind of want to end up with the Link 4 Marincess plus a Totally Awesome, like a hard-made Totally Awesome as well. So what you can do from here is you can use your Fishborg and you can use your Prior. And that is, of course, going to go into your Coral Enemy. And you're going to put Coral here because it needs to summon to a zone it points to. Coral Enemy can then use her effect, and you want to bring back either Ronin, but you're probably going to want to bring back your Chiromancer more so. You then have the ability for bring back Fishborg Launcher, and you then also have the ability to activate Salvage to bring back your Prior, and it can bring back 15 or less, can bring back a Ronin Toad. So it's then from this point here that you can special summon down your Prior, and you can overlay these into a Toad. There was no need to bring this back, you could have left this if you wanted to, but it's entirely up to you on the route you want to go from this. Is you have the ability to link all of this together, link these together, leave your Prior on the board, and then what that will allow you to do, if you did this, this will go into, so I'll show you the options. You don't have an Omni Negate on board, but you can make one. So by going into the Bubble Reef, you then pass your turn, and then during the standby phase, you activate your Coral. Coral will then banish to let you draw a card, so it can be any card you want. Well, not any card you want, but any card you draw. And then what you have from here is the Crystron Halley Firebrax can tag out, go into like a Riser, can go into a Formula, can go into pretty much anything, and then make a synchro with this one, and you've maintained a bit of hand resource. If you went the other route, and you decided not to go into this, but you decided that you wanted to overlay these, and go with your Coral, leave your Coral on the board, and put, you can probably leave Fishborg in the grave, but it's entirely up to you if you want to bring it back or not. So if you were to do it this way, the big difference is, rather than a card that's going to allow you to banish and draw a card, you're going to end up with a Totally Awesome and a Swap Frog to set up your place for the next turn. So again, that's an adaptive behaviour of how you want to do it. You've got a weaker link too. You don't get the additional draw. But what you will do is during your opponent's standby phase, you use the effect of Toad. Put one of these in the graveyard, special summon out Swap. Swap can then dump wherever he is. Or you can go for Dupe if you want to try and set up and wall up a little bit, you can go with Dupe. But you go with Swap. Swap will then send, and you're probably going to want to send a Ronin. There you go. And then what you can do here is you can trigger your Halley Firebrax. I suppose no, that's how you wanted to do it. Yeah, then you trigger off the Halley Firebrax, and again, you now have the ability to go into pretty much anything. Formula, Croc, Desert Locust, Dragite. Dragite would probably be the better one in my opinion, because you'd go Locust, rip one from your opponent's hand, and then you'd sync these up, and then go into the Dragite. So Fishborg should probably just stay in the grave. And this pretty much gives you a Spell and Trap Negate and an Omni Negate and Toad. So lets you keep 2 cards in hand, and again, that was from an underwhelming hand. Like, the hand wasn't broken. It was an interesting hand that had a couple of cards you don't ever want to see in your hand, like Ronin and Hexa. You want them to stay in the deck, but these type of hands happen, so you need to see how you can deal with it and how you adapt your build, adapt your play style when stuff like that happens. So we're going to shuffle this up again, and now we're going to start going second. So we're going to show the aggressive nature of the deck. Now, the aggressive nature of the deck, you still kind of want to play the Halley Firebrax route, but you're probably going to want to go more for your Trish plays, your bigger Trish play as well, or the new Trish specifically, to try and clear boards off. And that's kind of where you want Wayne in the hand, because then it's kind of like, yay, free summon off of this extra card. So after another decent shuffle and a good old cut, oh, hello. Our opening hand of 6 this time will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, not too bad. The Moray of Greed doesn't really help us massively right now, because just by getting Revealer and then being able to get into Wayne is going to put in a lot of work right here. So what we'll do is we'll normal summon the Revealer. Revealer will then trigger her effect, and you could discard the Dupe Frog, but what will probably be best right now is to discard one of the chains, because you can only activate one chain. At least with Dupe you can spin it back with more Ray of Greed and go a little bit further. So then what we're going to do here is we're going to use the effect of course, Revealer to special summon down Hex. Hexa will then use its effect. Now again, if you plan to go into high level synchros, you want to make sure you don't send Prior, because you'll be using Prior to come back, and that then locks you into getting big synchros. If you are to send anything, I think Zuijin might be your best one just for later game kind of plays as well. The only other reason you would send anything else is if you want to send the Chiromancer just to put a level 2 tuner in the grave. So then what we're going to be able to do from here is we're going to be able to special summon Wayne, because we control an Ice Barret and our opponent will control a monster, or hopefully. Wayne's effect will then go off. Now the one that I say to go for is the Medallion, because then you can activate said Medallion and get you into a speaker of the Ice Barret. Now the one thing you have done by sending the Zuijin off of the Hexa, if you wanted to keep it the same, is you've made Hexa a level 2. So that is important, going a little bit further on, depending on your synchros. Because you control Ice Barriers, you're going to special summon down Speaker, and you're going to use Speaker's effect here well, not effect, but you're going to overlay into Shark, and then bring out a Toad. Now, Toad just gives you a little bit of protection going further forward on this play, and also helps set you up with some other bits as well. Now what you can do is you can use Speaker to give you the token if you want to keep Wayne on board. You can also use Speaker to give you the token, and then you can use Wayne plus the level 2 Hexa to go into a level 8 Synchro, but then that's pretty much your turn end, apart from obviously activating Freezing Chains to bring a card back. So you can use Speaker's effect right now, or you can save it, it's entirely up to you, but we're going to use it to bring the token. You're then going to use the token plus the Hexa as a tuner to summon out your Crystron Halley Firebrax. Halley Firebrax effect will then go off, and that will let you special summon a tuner from the deck, and we're going to go for the Fishborg launcher, purely because even if you don't use Fishborg as a tuner, you can use it to bounce back and forth at least once to give you a little bit of additional extension. Now again, because we're going aggression, you kind of want to not rely on anything, but you kind of want to be using and abusing the higher level monsters. So you go Fishborg and Shark, and you're going to go into your Coral, because obviously Shark can't attack because it's summoned out Toad, so it doesn't really offer you a lot right now. Fishball can bring itself back if you want it to, but you can also trigger the effect of Coral. Now Coral has the ability to bring back Hexa or Zuijin. Of course Hexa would only be a level 1 tuner at that point, and then that's the other option that you have as well off of the back of this, is you do have the ability to make a Brionac as well. So what we're going to do from this is you can use Coral's effect to bring back your Zuijin, and then what you can also do is bring back your Fishborg launcher. Now obviously if you had another Wayne in hand, you could use Zuijin to tribute to special summon it down, but you also have the ability by bringing back a Fishborg launcher to again make a level 8 synchro. Now it's a little bit awkward because of course the cards we have are 6s, and of course they are 6s, 7s, 9s and 11s. So it makes it a little bit tricky to do. So what you can do as an alternative is you do need to bring back a tuner. Now the only tuners you've got in the graveyard are level 1s, so the only way you can kind of climb this a little bit higher, and even then, is you have to turn Wayne plus Fishborg into a 6. So you special summon out Fishborg, use Wayne plus Fishborg, Fishborg will get banished, and that will give you a level 6, which will be your Brionac. Because technically Dupe and Moray are dead cards, you can ditch these to bounce to as well. So this is all about thinking about going aggression. And then you have the ability to bring back the Freezing Chains to bring back your Hexa. Now, what this will allow you to do is you can then use Brio plus your Zuijin plus your Hexa to make a level 9, and that will then be your Trish. So by making your Trish, you've then cleared off 3 more cards, 1 from hand, field, and grave, plus obviously you've cleared off 2 with your Brainiac. Now you've used pretty much everything. You haven't got the most aggressive board right now, purely on the sense that Toad is 22, Coral is 2k, and then Trish is going to be 27. Trish has pretty much used up its usefulness right now. So after you've done all the attacks, moving into your main phase 2, what you do have the ability for, if you want to, is you can use Trish plus Coral plus Toad and go into the Bubble Reef. Bubble Reef just allows you to have an additional draw, and you've got another way of getting one of these monsters on the board to kind of help further your plays during your opponent's turn, but this is just where you've kind of ended up. Another route is, if you didn't want to go to Brio and Trish, is you could go Bubble Reef, and you go Bubble Reef and you go with a less so level Synchro, in the form of you keep Brio on the board, or you end up keeping like a Dragite on the board or something like that, and then during your opponent's turn you trigger off Halley Firebrax. Halley Firebrax will then give you a tuner, and you've got a Synchro monster there that can then be used as fodder to Link Climb higher. So it really depends on what you're facing at that particular moment, but in that exact example, we're able to pretty much clear off, banish 1 card on the field, spin 2 cards on the field, banish 1 from hand, banish 1 from graveyard, and kind of go from there, and plus set up ourselves up an Omni Negate as well. So let's move on to our second test hand going second. After a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, we will start our second test hand with our opening hand of 6 being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess Swap Frog wants to be played. Now Swap Frog's actually really good in this scenario because he's got so many waters you don't mind discarding. We're going to activate Medallion, and Medallion is going to go for... I mean, I'm not going to normal summon anything else apart from Revealer. So I actually think Revealer will be the better one. What you could do is, of course, you could go Wayne, and then what you'd do with this is you'd have to normal summon the best route would be to add Wayne, normal summon your Hexer. I'm trying to think what the route of play would be, because you'd normal summon your Hexer, you'd then be able to special summon your Wayne. Wayne can then get you Medallion. You can activate Medallion to grab you the Speaker, and then you can start specialing your Speaker and making your plays from there. The one thing you'd have to be careful of if you plan to go into your Synchros in this play is to not summon out prior. You still have Swap Frog, can still special summon itself, and it can special summon itself because it is not a hard once per turn. It's only a hard once per turn to gain an additional normal summon of a Frog monster that isn't Swap. So you have the ability to pretty much flood that. I'm going to swap the Revealer for a Wayne. I think Wayne would be a smarter option on this. And rather than just going like Frog Climb as well would be kind of cool. So let me get a general Wayne. And then what we'll do is we'll normal summon the Hexer. Because we control an Ice Barrier monster, we can special summon, and our opponent will control one as well, special summon down Wayne. Wayne will then use his effect to give you an Ice Barrier spell. So we're going to grab Medallion again. We're going to activate Medallion, and we're going to get ourselves a Speaker. Because Speaker is a free summon. Now, you have got the ability to hard cast a Toad. So in my opinion, there's no point in trying to go Shark and then Toad, because it doesn't really give you a lot of advantage unless you plan to special summon down prior, which then means you're not planning to go for your high level Synchros. So what we'll do is we'll special summon down the Speaker. We'll then use Speaker plus Hexer, because obviously it's a tuner. Actually, before we do that, we're going to use Hexer's effect, and Hexer will send... I'm going to go with a Chiromancer on this one, because at least it's a tuner, and it is also a level 2 Aqua, so I can make Toad with it as well. So we're going to link these two together and go into Halley Firebrax. Halley Firebrax will then use his effect, and that will then allow us to special out Fishborg. At least with Fishborg, it is a level 1 Tauner, but it also is, the fact it can summon itself back is really important. So from this play here, obviously what you can do is Swap Frog, special summon it by discarding a Swap Frog, which is really good actually because you set up your plays on there, because then your Swap Frog triggers to send a Ronin Toad in, and that gives you a play to make already. You do have the ability, if you want to bring the Swap Frog back and get rid of it, but what is actually going to be even more important right now is we're going to use Swap and Fishborg. Keep in mind, this route of play is without protection from Nibiru. If you are worried about Nibiru, you'd go a different route. So you make your Coral Enemy. Coral Enemy's effect will then go off to bring back a Frog from the graveyard. So you bring back Swap, That will then allow you to trigger Swap's effect again. And that can send a Ronin Toad in because you're going to be able to put more frogs in the graveyard, which is great. If you wanted to, you can bring back the Fishborg now. This is the only issue you've got, is you've got a lack of Dawners. So if you're planning to make a synchro play, you need to make that synchro play now. We're probably going to aim for 11, so we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we can only get to a 10 at the moment. Oh, no, we can get to the 11. Can we get to 11? Don't think we can, actually. Trying to think this one through. I don't think we can get to an 11, which is annoying. Because oh no, I think we can get exactly to 11. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, we can only get to a 9. And it takes up pretty much our whole board. So that's a bit of a disappointment. Another option, if you don't bring back Swap, I suppose, is you bring back Speaker. That gives you a 10. Yeah, that'll only give you a 10 as well. So there's a lot to play around with, and it really is. The one big thing that I can say about this is you really need to be able to manipulate levels. And obviously the issue we've got is if we decide to bring the Swap back off of Coral, is we don't have a way of getting 2 tuners on the board. You can only get the one with the Fishborg loop. If you choose not to bring back this Swap Frog, obviously you won't get the send of a Ronin, which is fine, but you'll get a level 2 tuner, which will then give you access to a level 9 here, or if you bring out another Toad, you can go for a level 11. So it depends on where you want to go on this route. If you go the Toad route, so I'll show you the Toad route here, you can actually make 2 totally awesome. So you've got Swap Frog that you've just brought back off of Coral. You'd banish, use Ronin's effect to banish the Swap to bring this this card out. And then you'd overlay these, go into 1 Toad. And then you can... That one's already in the grave. No, that one's banished. Then you've got the ability you'd have to special summon down Prio. So you'd have to special summon down Prio. Not so special summon Prio, sorry. Special summon down Swap Frog by getting rid of Prio. Ditch another frog, which can be Dupe, or another Ronin, doesn't really matter. And then you'd use the second Ronin in grave to bring this one back, and then you'd make a second Totally Awesome. So then you'd go... Where are you? Totally Awesome. And now the only issue is with the Toad to summon from deck, you can only do one of them because you've only got one zone. So if you do eventually end up getting rid of the Wayne or linking off, which you can do just by banishing Speaker, which will give you the token to go into the bubble, allows you to go a little bit further. So you do Speaker gives you the token, use the token plus Wayne plus Coral, and that will get you into Bubble Reef. So this is all without kind of... synchroing during your turn, and then what that will allow you to do is Toads will trigger, so you can bring out 2 dupes and then your opponent can't attack you, or what you can do is you can bring out 1 Swap, 1 dupe, or 1 Ronin, 1 dupe, and then you use Halley Firebrax, and Halley Firebrax can make Riser, and then Riser can use both of these to go to at least a 11. So that give you a big Trish during your opponent's turn, or something else during your turn. So it depends if you want to go. This, to me, like looking forward to it, is probably the better board, purely because it's just got so much more going for it and more interruption during your opponent's turn. But if you're desperate to try and clear off your opponent's board, then you'd probably play it a little bit differently in order to kind of make the Trish during the aggressive turn. But I'd only advise making that Trish during the aggressive turn if you know you're going to win from this point on. Whereas I think this is kind of a nice one, because then what you do, 2 Toads are doing stuff, Halley Firebrax is doing stuff, and Bubble Reef will do something, hopefully clearing off enough monsters. And then during the standby phase, you banish your Coral, draw a card. You also trigger both the Toads. Cool. So you trigger off both the Toads, put 1 Ronin in, and put 1 Swap in. At least you've got enough going on there. And then I believe, I'm not too sure how many Toads we've got left. I've got 1 dupe, and I think I've got 1 Ronin. So I don't think I can actually summon out Ronin. Where are we? Yeah, I got 1 Ronin. Oh. So then maybe what would have been better is if Swap, rather than sending dupe on the last one, maybe Swap would probably send Ronin. So I'd probably have to fix it up a little bit, because then you'd end up with 2 dupes to kind of bring out on the board. So it's a lot more forward thinking than you actually consider. But yeah, the idea would be that ultimately you would end up with 2 frogs on the board. So you've either got an attack lock, Or if your opponent, if you are worried about what your opponent's going to do, you can then trigger. Obviously, you've got 2 toads to protect you, but then trigger Halley Firebrax, and then Halley Firebrax will go, you know what, I'll give you a Riser Dragon, which is a 7. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Give you your new Trish to banish free. Or you can go into, keep 1 dupe to protect you from attacks. Go into Desert Locust, rip 1 from your opponent's hand, and then sync with one of the dupes and go into a Dragite. Or you can go into Formula. Formula will let you draw once you've ended up drawing 2 cards, and then you go into a Herald. Or finally, as your other option, is you can go into Croc, and Croc will let you draw 2 more, so you've ended up with a hand of 3. So it depends if you want to spell and trap negate, whether you want a banish free. You could go Trish as well if you wanted to. Go OG Trish. Oh no, actually, yeah, OG Trish. You'd have to send Riser. Riser would need to lose levels 2. Yeah, need to lose 2 levels. So you just send. You'd have to make the Riser to make it. But that kind of gives you the options that during your opponent's turn, you have access to all of these synchro monsters, which is absolutely mad. So that's kind of an option you can look forward to as well. Which is why I think this deck is so good in the sense that it actually has. It's annoying that you need to rely on Halley Firebrax, but it actually gives you so many more options to play for your opponent's turn, and so good with the toads as well that it works out incredibly nicely. Anyway, I hope this is giving you a couple of ideas on how to play the deck and a couple of routes around the deck and how it operates and where you can kind of take it. I definitely think this is a fun deck. I love the idea behind it. It's probably my first proper water deck that is, I wouldn't say heavy combo, but definitely has a lot of combo orientation in it. And I think it works incredibly nicely. But for now, as I said at the start, please smash that like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe. If you get this video up to at least 50 likes, I will bring you a full duel video with this deck at locals as well. But for now, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.